As of August 2025, the CDC reports 151 out of every 100,000 ER visits were related to suspected suicide attempts, but there is some good news. The prevalence of serious suicidal thoughts among 12 to 17-year-olds fell from 13 to 10% between 2021 and 2024, and it's thanks in part to efforts made by people like our two special guests today. We're checking in with Haley Degree from the Gray Matters Collective and Kevin Hines, a storyteller, best-selling author, global public speaker, and award-winning documentary filmmaker. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, of course. Now, Kevin, we're going to start with the first question for you. So why is suicide prevention so important to you?
Oh, suicide prevention is so very important to me and to Haley because of what you said, the impact it's having at a global scale around the world. People of all ages dying by suicide, attempting suicide, and thinking of suicide. This is the conversation we must be having at the breakfast, lunch, and dinner table of every home, no matter the age of your children, because it's on their minds. We need to be aware of it, we need to understand how to tackle it, and we need to know what to do to stop it.
And how do we bring this conversation up? Where do we start?
So this is a tough question because everyone is afraid to ask the question, are you thinking of suicide? But let me tell you, asking the direct questions, are you thinking of killing yourself? Have you made plans to take your life? And do you have the means? Gets a more honest answer than are you thinking of suicide or self-harm, because of the taboo on the word suicide, and because self-harm is not suicide, it's self-harm, although it can lead to that. But starting with, hey, I'm worried about you, or if you love the person, I love you so much and I'm really worried about you. I'm going to ask you 3 direct questions. I want you to be very honest with your answers. I'm not going to judge your answers. You're not in trouble. I want you to tell me the absolute truth. Are you thinking of killing yourself? Have you made plans to take your life, or do you have the means? It doesn't put the thought in someone's mind, gives them permission to speak on their pain, and a pain shared is a pain halved.
And just even having that conversation, just starting it is just where we need to have our focus. So how do we go after that? Where do we take that turn?
So let's say the answer to all 3 of those questions is yes. Then you need to assess the situation. Are these just thoughts of suicide, or are these thoughts with an intent to attempt? Those are 2 very different things. If they're just ideation, sit with the person, be with them. You don't need to answer or solve their problems. They just need your time and energy and help and effort. If they are direct ideations with an intent to attempt, with a means to attempt, that's when you need to involve crisis services, or even, if necessary, the police, or a mobile crisis unit of some kind. You need to make sure that the individual in question gets to a safe place in that moment so they are unable to take their lives.
Great advice. Thank you for that. Now, Haley, we've had you on before to talk about the Gray Matters Collective, but just tell us about how Kevin has impacted your guys' mission and his story.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin was really one of the first people that I ever saw with lived experience with mental illness that was speaking out about this, especially in such a public way. And when I saw his story, for me, it was a moment that I realized I could talk about mine as well. And really, if it wasn't for Kevin and his story, I wouldn't be speaking up about this. Gray Matters Collective wouldn't exist. We wouldn't have an additional resource here in the Quad Cities. And so his story has impacted me deeply. And I think it goes back to what he said, a pain shared is a pain halved. And I know that's true for me in my own life. So thanks to Kevin for sharing his story, because he truly does save lives every day.
Yeah, and now Kevin, what is your story, if you don't mind you sharing?
Absolutely. So in the year 2000, due to bipolar disorder, I leapt off the Golden Gate Bridge in an attempt to take my life. It was the worst action I'd ever taken up until that point. I was in the worst place of my life, the greatest point of despair. And by God's good grace, I survived that fall. 99.9% of the people who have leapt off the Golden Gate Bridge are gone. And I get to be here. And after that happened, I was encouraged by 2 clergymen to share my story, and I've done so now around the world. My videos have reached 3 billion views, and my story has been told to have saved over 200,000 lives and counting. I get messages every day from people saying this story saved their life, and I couldn't be more grateful and appreciative of that, because it shows me that I'm on the right path and that this is my purpose. I do this work with my lovely wife, Margaret. We travel around the world sharing stories, sharing films, sharing books, and sharing resources. And our goal is to impact hopefully 1 billion more lives in our lifetime.
And we're so grateful and happy that you are here. Now, today is the last day of Suicide Prevention Month, but mental health should be talked around all year round. So what can those watching at home do to take care of themselves and those around them?
So there's a myriad of things you can do, but let's start with the basics, okay? If you're physically capable, some of us are not, get to the ground and get to work. Exercise. 23 minutes of rigorous exercise leads to 12 hours of better mood. Do that twice a day, 24 hours of better mood. If you can't avail of it, therapy is a good option. Talking to a therapist, being honest about your struggles, telling the truth about what you're going through, so you don't have to hold that all by yourself. Sleeping routine. If you're not sleeping properly, that leads to psychosis all by itself. Do all the work you can to better balance your brain and sleep efforts. And then there's so many other things you can do. Anti-inflammatory foods are crucial to your brain's mental well-being. So eating them as often as you can are very important. So many great things to do for your brain health. And please, I've just released my new book, The Art of Wellness, How to Find, Live, and Stay Mentally Fit. It is a guidebook on how to better balance your brain, mind, behavioral, mental, physical, spiritual, social health, and well-being. And there's a workbook at the end where you can track your wellness for the next 30 days.
Wow, what a great resource there. Now, Haley, let's talk a little bit about the resources that the Gray Matters Collective offers.
Yeah, the Gray Matters Collective, we offer tons of resources, and I would like to say we're not counselors, but we're connectors, so we can connect people to those resources. We have 7 free monthly support groups every month right here in the Quad Cities. We also connect to resources such as Warm Lines and the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which we all know is 988. But we also offer resources for free therapy as well. So if there's people who are struggling financially and need that additional support, we're here to provide that. So tons of great resources, and we encourage people to reach out if they have questions about that.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Kevin, do you have anything else you want to add?
I just want to add this to everyone out there watching this today who is struggling with your brain pain. Keep going. It gets better with time, energy, effort, and a great deal of hard work, because nothing could ever come without it. It gets better. Haley and I are living proof.
Thank you guys so much. Awesome advice. Really appreciate you guys both being here.